I think I may have figured out some explaining images way of describing or hopefully explaining some of these matters about human cognition and more stereotypical human brain. Now, exactly in what ways my own specific brain would differ from this stereotype is in itself rather irrelevant, and either way it's not my point. That's not what I'm aiming for. It's just that for reference I might need to borrow my own brain. In general, we have this. We like to use technological metaphors when describing human functions, and that's quite interesting because our machines are prolongings of our own physical, biological functions, and you could say they are simplified replications of the human biological machinery. So this thing with the human brain and the human logic, or should I say lack of logic, lack of individual logic, suddenly got this so connection to some electronic systems, in this case cars, and there's some specific reason for picking this particular example, is that there are two different, at least, power systems in a typical car. It's partly electric and it's partly about burning, and those two cooperate. They are dependent on each other. You don't really supply a car with electric energy except when the battery is completely drained. You fill up gas, and electricity is generated by the physical power. It's gas that's getting the machine moving. Still, this burning system won't function without electricity, because it's an electric spark that's firing, that's making the gas explode. And without explosion, there becomes no forward movement. it's not necessary knowing every detail about this. I don't know this myself. Because I think still I may have a model here which should be intelligible even for complete idiots. Not that there's anything wrong with being an idiot. Many of my best friends throughout life have been complete idiots. I'd say they wouldn't even have become my friends otherwise. Not that I'm picky. Others maybe. Am I losing the track? Not likely. You should see this. Whatever I may be losing, it's not the tracks. So, what I was about to say is that I think if you compare a human and the human brain, the power consuming and power supplies of a car, I would say that the typical modern human is naturally fairly modern model and has a powerful engine that's made for constant using, and I would say also has a very effective generator, so that as soon as you get this vehicle moving, will produce huge amounts of electricity, and a drained battery should rarely be a great problem. Compare this with an older model where say it's a rather weak engine, 3 cylinders, 2-stroke, something, some 300 cubic millimeters or something, lightweight, not very thirsty, and also, as long as it works, rather strong and effective on most frequencies, while perhaps this modern big machine, V8, 6,000 cubic millimeters or whatever, needs a certain amount of power just to be alive. And now, if we're lucky, I'm approaching the central and perhaps even interesting part of this, and the electric system is malfunctioning. Basically, the problem could be one or two alternatives. Could be not enough electricity, or it could actually be too much. It can also be overstimulated. Like in economy, we speak about overproduction crisis. Sounds like a contradiction, which it is, but nevertheless, that's in practice something that happens. So too little electrical energy might be a dysfunctional generator, that the mechanical movement doesn't create the amount that you would actually need to get things going, and the system will feel tired, and you need to stress it up in lethal rounds per minute, only to keep it awake, because it's the mechanical movement that supplies the system with electrical energy. So the more rounds per minute, the more electricity will die out when the rounds are sinking. How about the other case? It's usually a grounding problem, but it's overload. The system is fully supplied as it should with all the electrical energy it would possibly ever need. However, the one central thing about electricity is this grounding thing. It must be laid away somewhere, not only somewhere in general, but back to Earth. Why it's called grounding, idiot. And in this case, like I said, the more power you add, mechanical, physical power, the more electrical energy will be generated. But it gets stuck in the system. There's no no exit, which means this engine might run smoothly at a few rounds per minute, because at that stage it doesn't produce very much electricity. The problem comes when giving some more gas, which it makes the generator run faster, and the result will be that it dies out when you try to accelerate, when you push the engine, so it runs smoothly and feels powerful at low speed, and then when you step on the pedal it, and in this case I wouldn't describe it like as the motor is tired. It feels more like frustrated, and I don't know far as much about electrical stuff as I may pretend, so please correct me if I'm completely wrong. Because I've suffered both these problems. Now I'm not talking about my own brain, I'm talking about actual cars. I might add to that one problem doesn't exclude the other. Still, I've compared those two with each other, and a modern car, probably, my guess, grounding problem is more likely the explanation, apart from what symptoms you can observe. So that's probably what you would be used to. What I'm trying to get onto is think that some other weird thing that might be happening when there's not enough electrical energy and you step on the pedal to maximize, because you need to, that's the only way to get enough energy, overactivate the system, the mechanical system, and produce enough electrical energy. However, when doing so, you will also call for more gas, while there's still not really enough electrical energy to make use of all this, which means a lot of unburnt gas will pass through the whole system and out in the back as a firework of sparks, because then it fires because of the heat of the exhaust pipe, and it looks very dramatic and very dangerous. It's not exactly dangerous, but those cars behind you will slow down and increase the distance for natural reasons, because they're idiots. In a human, these effects would probably appear like an emotional outburst. I imagine it would do so. But it's actually something completely different. It's just unburnt fuel, and it, if it doesn't explode where it's supposed to explode, it will explode somewhere else. I'll dig deeper into this matter, but I try to keep those respective clips as short as I can, and it's already very much too long for my actual taste and for until next